Hey everyone, I will be discussing some important questions of chapter motion of class 9 physics. I have downloaded this PDF from the cbse.online.in. You can go there and download it yourself. So let's discuss few questions, one mark questions given here. So question 1 is define the term velocity. What is its unit? Is it a scalar or a vector quantity? So you know that velocity is defined as displacement per unit time. So you can also define it as velocity is a physical quantity that gives the speed and the direction of the motion of the body. The formula is written here: velocity equals displacement upon time. The SI unit of the velocity is meters per second, just like the speed, and it is a vector quantity because it describes both the magnitude as well as the direction. Alright, so it's a vector quantity. Question 2 is, what is the relationship between distance traveled and time elapsed for the motion with uniform velocity? You have to give the relationship between the distance and the time. So for a uniform motion, the distance traveled is equals to uniform velocity multiplied by the time. So what is the relation between distance and time? Distance is directly proportional to the time used. Okay? Question number 3. Define acceleration. Is it a scalar or a vector quantity? So you know that if you define an acceleration in a non-uniform motion. In a uniform motion, you cannot define the acceleration because the velocity remains constant in a uniform motion. You can only define the acceleration when the velocity changes. So you will start with this. In a non-uniform motion, the velocity of a body changes with time. It has different velocities at different instant of time and at different points of its path. In such a situation, we define a physical quantity called acceleration, which is a measure of change in velocity per unit time, and it is a vector quantity. Next is, what is the SI unit of acceleration? It is meters per second square. What is the acceleration of a body moving with a uniform velocity? So now by uniform velocity, I mean the velocity is constant, so it is a uniform motion. So uniform velocity matlab constant velocity, so there will be no change in the acceleration, so hence the acceleration of the body will be zero. Differentiate between acceleration and velocity. So acceleration is change in velocity per unit time, whereas velocity is change in the position of a body per unit time. Question number 7 is, the direction in which an object moves is given by the direction of the velocity of an object and not the direction of the acceleration. Okay, so the question says that, let's say I roll a ball in particular direction. The velocity of the ball is also in the same direction where it is rolling or where it is moving. But what about the acceleration? Is the acceleration same in that direction? So the statement that it says is that the direction of the motion is along the direction of the velocity and not the direction of the motion, acceleration. So I have to give an example to justify this statement. I cannot give a linear motion on a road. Okay, in that case, the acceleration is also in the same direction. But since I have to support this statement, so I will give an example with a ball which is moving upwards. Okay, so I have thrown a ball in upward direction. So as it is moving in upward direction, its velocity is also in the upward direction. But the acceleration which is acting on the ball is in downward direction. So you can see here that the direction of the motion is given by the direction of the velocity, because both are in the same direction, which is upwards, whereas the acceleration is acting in a downward direction. Okay. Question number 8. When is the acceleration of a body said to be positive? Okay, so the acceleration of a body is said to be positive when it is in the direction of the velocity. For example, if a ball is dropped from a height h and it is coming in downward direction, in that case, the velocity is of the object is in downward direction, as well as the acceleration acting on the body, which is force due to gravity, is also in the downward direction. So in that case, we will say that the acceleration of a body is positive. Okay. And whereas if the ball is thrown upwards, which is in case question number 7, there we will say the acceleration of the body is negative. Okay. So name different types of graphs. There are different types of graphs are bar graphs, straight line graphs, and histograms. Which type of graph is used to describe the motion? So, as we have already seen some graphs such as distance, time, velocity, time. all such type of graphs are line graphs. Okay, the line graph are used to describe the motion of any object. Because how can we make that line? By locating the positions, by locating the values of x and y, and we join those points and we get a line. So that's why it is called as a line graph. Moving to question number 11, name the two types of physical quantities. So two types of physical quantities are scalar quantity and vector quantity. Okay, so far so good. What is magnitude? So the numerical value of any physical quantity is called its magnitude. For example, velocity को ले लेते हैं, velocity के magnitude को speed बोलते हैं. Okay, so the number जो number होता है, numerical value means a number. Okay, physical quantity का उसको magnitude बोलते हैं. Define a scalar quantity. So physical quantity which has only magnitude and no direction, it is called a scalar quantity. Okay, so as distance is a scalar quantity because it has no direction with it, only magnitude is there. Whereas displacement is a vector quantity because it has magnitude and direction. Question 14. Give two examples of a scalar quantity. So I have written here distance and speed are the scalar quantities. Define a vector quantity. A physical quantity which has both magnitude and direction is called a vector quantity. If the simplest type of motion, the simplest type of motion is the motion along a straight line, all right, which is a uniform motion. Give two examples of a vector quantity. Two examples of vector quantity can be displacement and velocity. All right, so these were 17 questions of 1 marks each. Let's look at some 3 marks question. Okay, how can we represent the change in the position of an object with time? Okay, so if I have to represent that an object is changing its position with time, how can I do that? So the change in the position of an object with time can be represented on a distance time graph, definitely, because मुझे position और time का बताना है, तो y axis पे position होगा या distance और x axis पे time होगा, by adopting a convenient scale of choice. Okay, so in this graph, time is taken along x-axis and distance is taken along y-axis. So here you can see, here is a non-uniform graph that you can see. So at a time t1, the distance or the position is d1. At a time t2, the distance is d2. Okay, so that is how you can plot a graph. Okay, and you can represent the change in the direction with time. Moving to question number 19, why is the motion in a circle at a constant speed called the accelerated motion? So we have done this, अभी हमने पिछली वीडियो में किया है इसको कि in a uniform circular motion is an accelerated motion even though the speed is constant. So when a body moves along a circular motion with a constant speed, its direction of the motion at any point is along the tangent to the circle. So अगर कोई circle है, ठीक है, और एक पॉइंट पे ऑब्जेक्ट है, मूव कर रहा है, तो उसकी जो डायरेक्शन है, टेंडेंसी वो आगे जाने की है हमेशा, यू नो, टेंजेंट टू अ सर्कल, जैसे आप टेंजेंट बनाते हो सर्कल पे. So the direction of the motion at any point is along the tangent to the circle at that point. This motion is called the accelerated motion. The direction of the motion changes as the body moves in a circle and causes a change in the velocity. So if there is a change in velocity, means the motion is an accelerated motion. Question 20. A satellite revolves around the Earth with a uniform speed. All right. Is this motion accelerated? If so, in which direction does the acceleration act? Okay, so definitely the motion is accelerated motion because a satellite is revolving around the Earth, so at each and every point the direction is changing and hence the velocity is changing. So the velocity of the satellite revolving around the Earth changes due to the change in its direction of the motion. So the motion of the satellite is an accelerated motion. All right. And now you have to tell where is this acceleration being acted. So the acceleration is directly directed towards the center of the Earth. So for example, this is a circular, this is the Earth, okay, and this is, let's say moon is revolving around the Earth, the satellite. So to have a circular motion around the Earth, the direction of the acceleration is always towards the center of the Earth. That's why it can move in a circular path. Okay, so the acceleration is directed towards the center of the Earth. You know, acceleration is a vector quantity, so it has a direction. And which direction? Towards the center of the Earth, which is, let's say, towards the radius. जो radius आप बनाते हो circle का, उसके along. Moving to 21, what is the difference between uniform linear motion and uniform circular motion? Okay, so first of all, in a uniform linear motion, the direction does not change, whereas a uniform circular motion direction changes. So let's look at here. When a body is moving with a uniform speed along a straight line, its motion is called the linear uniform motion. So first you have to define both of them. Uniform linear motion is an accelerated motion. Now, when a body is moving with a constant speed along a circular path, the direction of the motion of a body changes continuously with time. We know that the change in direction of the motion implies a change in velocity. Thus, uniform circular motion is an accelerated motion even though the speed of the body is constant. Alright? Okay. Here is a यहाँ पे थोड़ा एक error है, sorry. In a uniform, when a body is moving in a uniform speed, the acceleration, the object is not said to be accelerated, right? Because it is moving in a straight line. So as long as an object moves in a straight line and it is not changing its direction and its speed is also constant, so there is no change in the velocity and the object is not accelerated. तो यहाँ पे एक error है, यहाँ पे not होना चाहिए uniform linear motion. Alright. Moving to question 22, when is the acceleration of a body negative? So I have told you when it is in the opposite direction to the direction of the velocity. For example, an object thrown upwards, the velocity direction is upwards, whereas the acceleration is downwards. So in that case, the acceleration of the body is negative. Question 23. Define uniform acceleration. Give one example. The uniform acceleration, you know, when there is a change in the velocity, equal change in velocity in equal interval of time. An object has a uniform acceleration if it travels in a straight line and its velocity increases or decreases by equal amount in equal interval of time. So we, as we've already seen its graph, ऐसे या तो ये increasing slope वाला होता है या तो decreasing slope वाला होता है, right? So that is called a uniform acceleration. Define not okay. There's an example also. The motion of a freely falling body has a uniform acceleration. So if you drop a object from a roof and it is now moving under the force of gravity only, so it has said to be a uniform acceleration. Okay. Define non-uniform acceleration. Give an example. Non-uniform acceleration is where if an object travels in a straight line and its velocity either increases or decreases by equal amount in equal interval of time. Very important है line, equal amount in equal interval of time. Okay. So for example, the movement of a car on a busy road, okay, has a non-uniform acceleration. क्योंकि अगर busy road है तो कार को कभी अपनी velocity कम करनी पड़ेगी, कभी बढ़ानी पड़ेगी. तो it will be like in equal interval of time. अगर हर एक घंटे में हम उसकी velocity देखेंगे वो equal नहीं होगी. It will be either increasing or decreasing. So that type of motion is the non-uniform motion. Moving to question 25. What do you mean by retardation? Give its SI unit. Give an example of the negative acceleration. The negative acceleration और लिखा है ना, तो negative acceleration का मतलब ही होता है retardation. Okay. So when the velocity of a body decreases with time, time के साथ अगर velocity decrease हो रही है, so its final velocity will be less than the initial velocity and its acceleration is negative. You can see that from first equation of motion also, v equals to u plus at. Just put final velocity less than initial velocity, you will see that a will come out to be negative. This negative acceleration is called the retardation. Its SI unit is same as the acceleration, which is meters per second square. To give an example for negative acceleration, when brakes are applied to a moving car, let's say a car is moving with a velocity, some velocity u, and suddenly the brakes are applied and the car stops. Okay, तो acceleration नहीं हुआ है, वहाँ पे retardation हुआ है क्योंकि initially velocity ज़्यादा थी और finally the car has stopped, so the velocity is zero. ठीक है? So in this case, there is a retardation in the object. Okay. So under these conditions, the object is said to be in retardation. Okay. So I think we have done plenty of questions today. We have done 17 questions of 1 mark each and 25 questions of 3 marks each. I will be sharing you this PDF so that you can go through this and do it on your own.